Hi everyone, my name's Janelle. I'm a functional nutritionist who lives and plays in the Sierra Mountains, and this is my podcast where we talk about functional health with a mountain twist in 30 minutes or less. On today's episode, I'm talking with my friend, Dr. Tara Kulkov. Tara is a doctor of Chinese medicine and acupuncture, as well as a sports kinesiologist. Tara shares 5 effective ways to stay strong after 40. I hope you learned something and enjoy our talk. I certainly did. Welcome, everyone, and welcome, Tara. I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you for being here to discuss ways that we can stay strong or get strong as we get older, especially as so many of us are women who like to play in the mountains. So I just want to start off by saying, Tara, I adore how you approach health. And you have this insatiable interest in science and physiology and how the body works. And you seem to weave it together really brilliantly with the mind-body practice of Chinese medicine and acupuncture. So thank you for doing that. I think it's unique. I think it's brilliant. I love your work. And thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So let's start off, if you don't mind, by sharing maybe how you came to love working with this group of people. You help women get strong, or you help men and women understand their body better, understand what steps to take to be and feel their best. So how did you get into this work, kinesiology and acupuncture?
Yeah, thanks. The good question. So it's been since I was very young, just like many other professionals. I started out as an athlete myself, a very young age. So I think I went to the Junior National Olympics in track and field by 3rd grade.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't
And
know that.
yeah. So that progressed to college, where I was a collegiate athlete in track and field. I also did other sports, but that's what I focused on in college. Always loved movement in the body, not just with myself, but with anything that moved, animals and other athletes. And so I was a biology major as an undergraduate. And then as a collegiate athlete, I was a 100-meter hurdler primarily. I was also a 400-meter hurdler, but in the sprint category of track and field. And as many people have had happen in their life, I had a terrible injury. And luckily, with being a Division I athlete, you get pretty good care. And so I was sent kind of all over the place trying to diagnose. It was mainly in my hip region, trying to diagnose this injury and treat it. And they came to the conclusion that they wanted to do exploratory surgery on me. And being like, I don't know how old I was, 19 years old, I'm like, that doesn't sound fun. And somebody suggested that I go to acupuncture. And that's where it all started. And what I really liked was how it was a holistic approach. So this acupuncture asked me how my sleep was, how my stress was, how my diet was, what vitamins and supplements I take. She looked me in the eye. She touched my arm. She had a lot of empathy. Whereas everybody else just looked at me as like a number in a chart. And then it really drew me in. And from that point forward, I was like, that's what I'm going to be.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I think you're right, though, in order to
go
on.
I combined the two. So after getting my, undergraduate, 4 to 5 years of traditional Chinese medicine, then I went to work for a while. I worked for our US Olympic team. I was dedicated to the bobsled and skeleton athletes, our Winter Olympians. And then after a few years of working solely for them, I was like, I need to know a little bit more about exercise physiology to blend the two worlds, to have a better approach at how I treat and care for people.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, it is really brilliant. You do blend them just perfectly. So I love that you have that to offer. So thank you so much. So you and I were both laughing before the call, before we hit record, about how all the women around us these days are asking what they should do. You were on the chairlift with a few women in their 40s last week. And yeah, it just happens all the time, right? Everyone wants to know what do I need to do to stay strong or get strong? So let's go first into maybe what you see people doing or getting confused about or getting wrong in their attempt to stay strong or get strong, as in their 40s, 50s, 60s on.
Yeah. So we can talk about a couple different things that I see often. And one is, metabolism and energy utilization. And then the other would just be like the logistics of how you approach your day in terms of what sport you're going to go into. Because I see two things. So we'll start with the energy use and metabolism. And what I largely see is women and even men as they age, our metabolisms will naturally decline and slow down and things change. And so they see changes in their body, and they may even see changes in their energy output. And so their natural instinct is to be like, okay, hey, like I'm feeling a little bit of extra weight gain here and there. I'm going to drastically decrease my calories,
Mhm.
right? So unfortunately, I see people drastically decrease their calories to a point where they're well under their caloric needs. And then they get into this vicious cycle where their body's in a state of constant stress. High levels of cortisol taps into the thyroid gland. The thyroid gets really pissed off, right? And they become something called hypothyroid. You can even see increases in glucose because those stress, the body's like, feed me, rest me, nourish me. And that's not happening. Um, and so the body's in that constant state of stress, as mentioned. And then eventually, when the thyroid starts to get pissed off, then all the other hormones start to get a little bit wacky. And that's a constant pattern. That's a common pattern that I see more in women, but also in men, right?
Yeah, that's so and as we get older, our hormones change anyway. So then it like makes this like perfect storm, right? Where extra cortisol is even more detrimental to our body and our health and our metabolism, ironically.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally.
So interesting. I love that you started out with that.
Yeah. So you need to kind of take a step back, right? I love approaching a person with a team approach. Okay. So, okay, let's stop here. I'm great that I'm proud of people for trying to be proactive with their health, but not to the point where it's going to cause them a spiral down. Okay. So maybe you need to start with some blood testing. So I'm fortunate that I can order labs. I'm very limited in what I can do with the outcome of those labs. So I like to have a medical physician on hand, an endocrinologist, or even just a primary care provider to put some eyes on those as well. Because if somebody does need some sort of thyroid support or some other pharmaceutical, that's not my job in the world. That's somebody else's job. And then, of course, I can help with the lifestyle things, such as like what you do as well. So if it was a perfect world and our medical system was perfect, everybody in the world would get their resting metabolic rate tested, right?
Mm.
And their VO2 max tested with
Okay,
a,
so can you tell us what those are before you move on? Describe it to,
yeah.
the layperson.
Yeah, so resting metabolic rate, that is the amount of calories that a person needs at rest.
Mhm.
Okay. And that varies according to your age, your gender, and your overall health status. But that's just literally what it takes for us to get up, get dressed, and like just be a person, not walk, not run, not work, not work out, right? Those are extra calories that we would add to that foundation of the resting metabolic rate.
Mhm.
Um, so I have worked in with many clinics that we have high quality gas exchange devices that measure that. There's equations that you can do out there in the world that are much more simple than those more expensive exams that we're just talking about. Um, but if you live in a town where you have a clinic or even you live in a college town where you can go to their exercise physiology lab, I definitely recommend getting that resting metabolic rate tested. And then the VO2 max, what I just mentioned, that is a test that people generally think about athletes receiving, right? Typically, it's a mask on the face. Sometimes there's a tube coming out of it and it's attached to a computer. Sometimes there are mobile devices where there's no tube and you'll see people on a treadmill or on a bike. with an exercise prescription to failure. Okay, so that is the thing, right? But we can also do that for the average person with a walking prescription,
Mm.
right? So it's not going to put them at harm of having some cardiac event or falling off a treadmill or bike by overdoing it.
So you're
So that
challenging
measurement,
someone.
yeah. What's that?
You're challenging someone's.
Yeah. So you're
Mhm,
challenging maybe a non-exerciser with a challenging walk that would include
mhm,
an incline.
mhm.
So VO2 max is the amount of oxygen a person can uptake and utilize. And that's an important number because it is directly correlated to longevity,
Mhm.
right? So the higher your VO2 max, the more likely you are to live a long and healthy life.
And that's probably, I'm using my assuming here, but that's probably because all of our muscles, all of our organs, all of our cells need oxygen, right? And
Yes.
so that very simple concept is
Yep.
how well are we oxygenating in the right amount all of our
Yep.
body
Your
parts that need
whole
it.
system. Yep. Your whole system down to the cellular level,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
So without proper utilization of oxygen, all your systems are going to decline. And our VO2 maxes naturally decline each decade as we age. So the more you can optimize it, in your younger years and keep it up, the better, right?
Okay. So can I ask you right now a simple question? What's one way someone could optimize their VO2 max?
Great.
What's
So
one
first,
like simple thing you could do?
yeah. So first, you want to kind of know what your value is. And once again, if you don't have, those tests are pretty expensive. And unfortunately, like I said, they're not covered by insurance right now. They usually run from $300 to $400. If you don't have that, you can do some field tests or utilize a smartwatch. A lot of people have smartwatches. And so, for example, I have a Garmin. It will give me my estimated VO2 max based on my pace and my heart rate during a run. I do have to tell you that those aren't 100% accurate. But it's nice for you and somebody else to use for repeated measures, right?
Mhm, mhm,
So you can
right.
say, based on my watch, my VO2 max is whatever, 49, 50, 35, and the best way to improve that value is, which research shows, is to exercise in two zones that people typically skip, right? And now we're opening another box.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
is a
yeah.
zone,
Yeah.
right?
But I mean, I think this is a basic concept. We don't have to
Yeah,
go too deep into to
yeah.
just
Mhm.
touch on because I do love this idea.
Yeah.
So
So
go
I'm
for it.
gonna I'm gonna use the layman term for zones, and I'll use what we call rate of perceived exertion for these zones. So optimally, you're going to be doing large majority of your exercise in what we call zone 2. Okay. So obviously we have zone 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then above 4 is, pretty challenging. So zone 2 is known as anaerobic or aerobic, right?
Or
So we're
chit chat mode, as I
chit chat
call it.
mode. I love that. Yeah. So like I said, then we go back to layman's term. So this is the zone that you can exercise and you can talk to your friend, right? So for some people, it might be a slow jog. For other people, it might be a fast hike. Um, slow swim, whatever you like to do, right? Whatever form of exercise you like to do, it's something that you can talk to your friend. You're not breathless, right?
Mhm.
That should be like the foundation, right? When we think of a triangle, a lot of people skip that because they don't feel like they're actually doing anything. They're not
Right.
sweating, they're not heaving, they're not puffing. But that is literally the base of life,
Yeah, for
right?
me, when I did that, it feels different. It feels like you're getting out of shape
Mhm.
but I love this because it works.
It
It
works.
works. And
Mhm.
it like how many things work when you're doing less effort, like less intensity. Like how cool is that?
So
Right? I
cool.
mean, it's so cool. So
Yeah.
the bulk in this theory is to do zone 2 or chit chat mode.
Yeah.
Then
For the
what's the
large
other pace?
majority of the time, if we're going
Yeah.
on percentage wise, it's like a good 70%, right?
Mhm,
Of your
mhm,
exercises in that zone. And then we need to reach the tippy top, which most people don't like either
mhm,
because it's too hard, right? We
mhm.
like that middle zone. It's not too
Mhm.
hard. It's not too easy. The tippy top, right, is where you are breathless, right? It's where
Like gonna barf.
you cannot talk to your friend.
Mhm.
And that being said, that's going to be much shorter duration.
Mhm.
And as
Right.
we age, especially women, research has shown that once you're actually in menopause, that it's beneficial to do that type of workout. And we might correlate that to high intensity interval training. So a HIIT
Mhm.
workout
Mhm.
upwards of 3 times per week,
Mhm.
right? So that might look like, and you have to choose the exercise modality that you like, right? We're looking for adherence and longevity. So choose any modality that brings you joy that you like, whether that's being in a gym, right? You might use a device in a gym, like a erg rower um, or a power meter bike that has the hands and the legs that you're doing. It could be a treadmill. It could be anything. It could be you jumping up and down on a box. It could be a jump rope. If you're outside, it could be running. It could be cycling. It could be swimming. Any of the above.
I
But
used to go really, really steep for those, like
steep, yes,
fast and
yep,
steep and those intervals.
100%. I do that too, right? And so that would be like something under 1 minute, because
Yeah.
above 1 minute, your body can't sustain that level of heart rate, and the respiration system can't keep up. So anywhere from like 20 seconds to 40 seconds, right? And then you recover from that for anywhere between 40 seconds to a minute and repeat it. So the duration is, that could be really quick. That could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes max. I did a
Mhm.
15-minute yesterday and I was like, that was gnarly.
I
Uh,
know. I really think this is such a brilliant approach, though, Tara. I just love it because, again, you're saying 70, I probably go 80% chit chat mode.
mhm.
And then that small amount of just like
Oh,
crush it hard and short.
hard
And
and
it
short.
really is this. I mean, everyone changes it a bit for their own personal preference and goals and all that. But I love that. I didn't know we were going to go there in this chat. I love that you went there. So
Okay. Yeah.
that's
And
brilliant.
that's what helps to grow the engine, AKA the VO2
Okay.
max.
Back to that. Okay, that's the
Back to
growing the
what we're
VO2
talking
match.
about.
And then,
Yeah.
but it's also what we were talking about also because your first thing that you said, Tara, was that when people, the most things people do that are wrong is that either decreasing their calories, or you mentioned that stressful cardio,
Yeah.
right? That like with that
Sure.
in between place that you were
Don't
talking
breathe.
about.
Yeah.
And I don't know if
In
maybe that
between.
was before we recorded, I don't remember, but that in between mode, which is what we're trained to think that we need to do, like run more, bike more. But that just kind of, for a lot of us, creates more cortisol and we hold weight and we
Yep.
don't grow muscle, right?
That's it. Yep.
So
Yep.
you've just like kind of, yeah, wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So yeah, so we're trying to increase our longevity and our cardiac output with optimizing your VO2 max. And then obviously we want to look at our muscle mass, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that naturally declines in women and men as we age. More so in women after menopause, right?
Thank
So
you, estrogen. Thank you, estradiol.
yep. So
Bye-bye.
once that goes, the body's like, sad to say, ladies, it's like goodbye. But guess what? There's something we could do about this. Okay.
Yes. Yes,
Um,
that's brilliant.
yeah. So first and foremost, I always recommend, once again, reaching out to our team of doctors and professionals that we have in the world to get a bone density scan.
Mm.
Women who has low estrogen, who we found those values of estrogen to start to decrease. Right. So bone density is something that is very important to keep high as we age. And one way to offset bone density issues is to do what? Exercise. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would be impact exercise. So unfortunately, things like swimming and cycling aren't going to do that. Things like running and jumping and lifting weights will do that. Okay.
Mhm.
So your estrogen levels, your bone density, and then you can kind of work from there. Okay. Some people will get like really slapped in the face and be like, oh my gosh, I'm like 45 years old and they have osteopenia, and I exercise, right? They're the ones that are like in the gym and they're on that in zone 3
Yeah.
for an hour a day,
Right.
every day,
Stressed out about getting their exercise in.
stressed out, maybe eating, 1,200 calories or less. Man, I had a woman last week tell me she eats 1,000 calories, right?
So, Tara, what you're telling us is work out less intense and increase your calories.
Yeah. The
I
complete
love it.
opposite of what people do.
Totally. The total
Eat
opposite
more,
of what we were
exercise less.
told. Yes.
Yeah, obviously, and mind you, we're not talking about the obese population right
Yes.
here
Yes.
in a
Yes. Yes.
podcast.
Yes.
That's a whole different
Yes.
conversation,
Yes.
right? Those people
Yes.
will need a caloric deficit,
Yes.
but we're
Yes.
talking about what we see, right?
And what we see with people that have their program, whatever it is that's working, and then they get older and it's not working. They're losing muscle, they're gaining, their body composition is changing. So like those people especially, right? Like because they think, oh God, things are changing, reduce calories, more treadmill,
Yes,
more fatty fish, more olive oil, more olives, all the good
100%.
stuff, dark
Yes,
chocolate.
nourish. But the other thing is
Nourish.
we have to remember what food is there for, right? Food is fuel, right? It
Mhm.
literally is something that allows us to move. The less you have of food, the less you're going to be able to move.
Move and have an immune system
Right?
and all
And
the things,
yeah,
right? Mm-hmm.
100%, right? And then what we'll see with this population is all the other terrible things are going to happen. So they're going to have high levels of anxiety and depression. They're going to have sleep issues. And as you
This is
mentioned,
the people that are cutting calories and
putting
exercising more.
calories
Okay.
and increasing exercise because they're seeing changes in their body as
Yes.
they age.
Okay. Sorry. Just wanted to clarify that. So
Yeah.
go back. What's going to happen now? Anxiety, keep
Depression,
depression.
sleep disorder,
Mm-hmm.
of course, immune system disorder,
Weight gain,
weight gain,
brain fog.
brain fog. I cannot tell you how many women, and this has been for, I've been a professional clinician for almost 20 years now. And, this has been for a good 15 or more years that I've seen this population that's in their 40s, a little bit of weight gain. And historically, I do really good nutrition analysis along with my program. And I see that I'm like, "No, these women are all eating under 1,500 calories.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Not enough to fuel and nourish their body. So their body goes into that starvation mode. And the weight will typically like to be stored around the mid part of our body,
Mm-hmm.
because that's where your vital organs are. And it
Mm-hmm.
wants to preserve them.
And that's the exact fat that doesn't respond to lower calories and more
100%.
cardio.
Yeah,
It's
your
that
visceral
doesn't
fat.
respond to that. Right.
Yeah, your visceral fat.
I love it. This is brilliant. So many pearls and
Yeah. So this
action
is what I
steps.
see with in the aging population in terms of calories. Now, in terms of like exercise prescription, what I see is that people in their 40s still think that they're like 15.
We're
And,
not? No,
and
just
this is mainly with runners, but also with a lot of other people. And they're like, oh no. I'm like, what do you do to warm up before you want run?
mm, hmm
Nothing. They go out, they
mm.
get out of bed and they run. I was like, oh gosh, no. You got
All
to
right. What
warm
do we do,
up.
Tara?
Yeah. This is moving out of the metabolic system into the skeletal muscular system, right? Because we
Mhm.
want to prevent injuries as we age so that we can really enjoy exercise and movement in life. So in order to prevent injuries, besides fueling yourself properly, you've got to warm up. Okay, so you want to have, usually when you're going to be active, you want to have you want to have a mobility routine and do
Mhm.
some active stretchings and some activation, right? You can just
Before we move.
before you move. Yeah, before you
Okay.
jump on the bike, before you go for a run, do some leg swings, some clamshells, touch your
Mm.
toes. So I'm not talking about static stretches. You're not going to
Mhm.
just sit on the floor and see how you can touch your toes for how long, right? You
That's
can,
brilliant.
yeah. So I'm constantly sending my patients YouTube videos of active warm-ups to do before they run to help offset injuries that they receive because their body's not ready to run, you know, from jumping out of bed.
And it's so important, but we all think we're so busy and we just want to get right to it. And it's doing us a disservice, is what you're telling us.
Service. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I'm going to remind myself to be better
Yes.
about that.
Yep. Yeah. And
That's
then
great.
on the opposite spectrum is do a proper cool down.
Okay.
So that could be, that could even be after a run that you walk
Mm.
for 5 minutes. And you can also do some what we call physiological sighs to remind your body that you're done exercising so that those cortisol levels come down.
Oh, that's
What I
brilliant.
find is that, yeah, people, they drive to the trailhead, jump out of the car, they go for their gnarly run, they come back to the car, they jump back in the car, they go and get their coffee, and then they're at work, right? And the body's like, whoa, what just
Yes.
happened? Remind yourself that you're done exercising. Take some deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. There's a very well-researched type of breathing called the physiological sigh, where you do 3 big inhales through the nose, 1 out through the mouth, and that resets the central nervous system to relax.
I'm going to do that. Thank you. I'm
Yeah,
going to add that
yeah.
every time I am.
And it shows that it drastically drops cortisol, right? Cortisol is actually important when we need it, when we're running, when we're exercising, if we get chased by something,
Yes.
but it's not necessary when we're driving to work, sitting at work.
Or when we're cooking dinner or when we're doing anything other than
When you're sleeping.
being
Yeah.
stressed for a very good reason. Yes.
Yeah.
Or yes. So I'm going to do that. Thank you. I'm horrible about that. I will admit. So that post exercise, even just the ritual of it, I like that idea to tell
The
your
ritual.
body I'm
We're
done.
done. Thank you. I'll
Yes.
even change my music. So when
Mm.
I don't listen to music outside when I'm being active, but when I'm in the gym, I listen to music, like really kind of aggressive music to get me pumped. But when I'm in the car, I will change it. So it's
Mm.
chill music.
Mhm. I love those cues, smells and music to
Yes.
help remind us what we're doing.
Mind body connection.
Yes, and that physiological sigh, another really effective tool.
Yeah.
Mhm. Wow, you have shared so many tips, and thank you. So many good things that we can all do today.
I hope so. Yep.
Yes, I love it. So we can all keep playing in the mountains, keep growing our muscles, which is really where health is.
100%. Yes.
Mhm. Cool. Anything else you want to share before we sign off and say
Yeah. So
goodbye?
one last thing is just because I see this all the time. I don't want women to be afraid to lift heavy weights.
Mm.
Okay. I never poo-poo any type of movement, right? So if I see a woman in a gym who has 5 pounds, right, then I'm like, yay, she is in here, she's moving her body, she has a little bit of weight. Okay. But if we really want to get the physiological effects of exercise, and in particular of muscle growth, you have to go beyond the 5 pounds. Okay. So work yourself up and do not be afraid to test yourself. Okay. This is called progressive overload. So you're going to overload your system with a little bit more weight. And I guarantee you, you'd be surprised how much you can lift. Okay. And that is very important as we age to have higher muscle mass, right? Pulls on the bones, increases bone density, and really optimizes your life, your hormones, and basically movement throughout the world. Okay. So everything you do will become easier if you're stronger.
And your metabolism and your blood sugar, and
Yes.
it helps everything.
Everything.
So I like that. That's really important advice. And I think women are confused about that often.
Mhm.
So I like that message. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so Tara, if people want to find you, how do they do that?
My website is the best place, and it's acuacu-energy.com. And I see people locally, and then I also offer telehealth.
Great. And I will link that in the show notes. And I encourage everyone to reach out. You're brilliant. You are really great at supporting people through so many different things, but especially staying and getting strong.
Thank you
So
for having me, Janelle. I really
yeah,
appreciate you and what you do as well.
thanks, Tara. That's it for this week. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a comment and review, as that helps more people find out about it. You can find me and the courses I teach at mountainrebalance.com and on Instagram. If there's a topic you want to hear about, please reach out and let me know.